One of the critical recommendations of FSRC was in regulation making and review of regulations. There should be greater public and stakeholder engagement, and there should be a cost benefit analysis of all the regulations. The cost to the society or cost to the stakeholders in large must be outweighed by the benefits of those regulations. And the regulators must draw or must make such regulations such that the costs are lesser and the benefits are more. But one must think that why would a regulator do that? A regulator would do that only when it is written in the primary law. So for instance, there is section 11A and section 11B of SEBI, which gives wide powers to it and to pass variety of orders, make a variety of it gives it a huge discretion. Similarly, the RBI Act provide wide unfettered discretion to RBI to issue licenses, to impose conditions on public interest. Now, if is there a proper justification of that provision in the RBI Act or SEBI Act? Has there been a cost benefit analysis or public or stakeholder engagement of that particular provision while the law was made? Can we just say that because the law was made by the parliament, which is the representative of the public, is that a good enough justification for having that provision in the law and not asking RBI to do a cost benefit analysis of the regulations that it is doing? So these are the fundamental questions in which have to be asked when a primary law is developed, so that the regulators, when they are making regulations on the basis of primary law, they make good regulations. Now, and this whole process is known as impact assessment. There are universally two types of impact assessment which are there. One is ex ante and second is ex post. Ex ante impact assessment is basically while development of the law, it identifies potentially anti-competitive, protectionist and welfare reducing provisions of the proposed law. It does a cost benefit analysis, it puts out the draft provisions in public domain and invites stakeholder comments on the draft provisions. Now, all the provisions and all the alternatives are compared, and the alternative which has greatest net benefit is selected. Now, this is what is the IFC's recommendations while it is talking about regulation making. The principle of it can be applied to law making as well. The second part of impact assessment is ex post impact assessment, which basically says that once law is in place, it should be reviewed after a particular amount of after some time has been elapsed, so as to review whether the provisions of law are being implemented in letter and spirit in which they were supposed to be implemented. What CUTS is trying to do is basically we have to generate evidence of benefit of impact assessment in India. So we are taking existing law and doing cost benefit analysis through greater stakeholder engagement and coming up with, okay, if there is X provision in the law, for instance, there is a provision in SEBI Act which says that SEBI has powers to do X, Y, Z. There is a provision in Recovery of Debts Due to Banks and Financial Institution Act that there would be only one presiding officer in the debt recovery tribunal. Now, there could be there are costs to the government if it says that there should be more than one presiding officer, but there are costs to the stakeholders because there could be cost to the stakeholders because one presiding officer can only handle X a number of cases in a particular day. So there is a possibility that there are greater delays if only one presiding officer is there. So we need to assess costs and benefits of all the stakeholders involved and suggest optimal alternatives to the existing provisions and establish that the net benefits of the alternatives are greater. So the basic objective is to emphasize on the need for impact assessment in primary and secondary legislations in India to generate evidence of the benefit of IA and work with the government to facilitate adoption of impact assessment in India.